Hello friends, welcome to the world of industrial safety management. Now we are going to look into discourse 5, which is part 1 of the 5 parts of the subject hazard identification, risk assessment and risk management. We will look into the subject or subtopic hazard identification, which is the starting point of the safety management or implementation of safety in any organization. Now basically, why hazard identification? Why we have to identify the hazards? Now we have looked into the various types of hazards in previous discourses. You know that there are many types of hazards at workplace. The hazard may be electrical hazard, mechanical hazard, the physical environment hazard, chemical hazard, bio hazards, fire, explosion and so on. So we know what are the hazards at workplace. Now there is a question of identifying it. So why identification? It is because if you do not wish that accidents to happen at your workplace, you have to follow the process of risk management. There is a certain process of risk management. There are 5 steps in risk management, and the first step for which is the hazard identification. Now we have already understood the importance of hazard identification from previous slide. Now one can understand that it's very natural that unless the hazards are identified, how one can assess the risk created by the hazard and how one can take the corrective step to eliminate that hazard, or if there is no possibility of elimination, how to possibly minimize the risk. So all these further steps need first step, that is the hazard identification. So hazard identification is a starting point or basis to plan safety implementation in any organization. So unless it is done, nothing can be planned. So for planning the safety implementation, the basis is the hazard identification. From there onwards, you can start its assessment and then you can start its management. So accident and occupational health problems, which can be considered as internal injury, its reduction and prevention is impossible without the hazard identification. Now what are the tools for this job, for the hazard identification? The basic tools are our sensory organs. That means our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. They are the primary tools. Now tongue probably may not be that useful in case of safety, but eyes, ears, nose, skin, they are very important sensory organs as far as the safety is concerned. Because with the help of eyes, you can identify n number of hazards. Like you can see that the loose wires, electrical wires are lying on the floor. There is some sparking in the wiring. There is some spill on the floor, and the floor has become slippery and so on. Numerous things you can identify with the help of your eyes. With the help of your ears, you can understand the level of the noise, and if you think that the level of noise is beyond limit, you can check it with the noise meter. Or if you are standing in front of a machine, just for the sound, you can develop a faculty that you can understand there is something wrong with certain bearing. That bearing has gone away and it needs replacement. Nose, you can smell. So you can have the smell of charring cables or hot cable or the charred lugs. If there is a sudden release of or the leakage of certain obnoxious gas which gives the smell. A very simple example is from our home. We have LPG cylinders at home. LPG does not have smell. So the company adds certain chemical into the cylinder so that whenever the gas is released or leaked, it gives a particular smell. And from that smell, you can identify that there is a leakage of LPG gas in the home. So by skin, that is by touch, you can understand if the things are hot or very cold. So our sensory organs are the basic tools. But only sensory organs are not enough. Along with the sensory organ, alert sensory organs, we need to have some training. Unless you are trained properly to identify, you cannot condition your sensory organs accordingly. So you must have some training, you must have certain experience of some years working, and there has to be certain common sense to identify and spot the hazards. So you need training, you need common sense, you need experience to use the sensory organs. See, sensory organs do not perceive. They only pass the signals to the brain, and ultimately the brain perceives. So brain is to be conditioned by training to perceive the risk, to perceive the hazard. So unless you have that, your brain may register a situation. So unless your brain is conditioned, trained, it may not register the situation. You just look at it and you don't perceive that there is a risk. And so you will not understand the graveness of it. If you don't perceive it, you will not understand the graveness of it and make you alert or give a warning signal. So ultimately your brain perceives it, it looks into it, it judges the graveness of it, and it makes you alert and give a warning sign. So most importantly, you must be conditioned psychologically also, because you should have a firm belief that safety is first. All other things are secondary. Safety is first. There has to be a very genuine concern in you about the safety. Now, what are the obstacles and mental blocks in identifying the hazards or implementation of safety? The first is, it's only a matter of luck anyway. That means accident happen to a particular person or a group of person because they have ill luck at that time. It is written in their horoscope that they will meet an accident. So nothing is to be done, just surrender to the destiny, surrender to the luck. So it's only a matter of luck anyway. Second belief, very strong belief in people, is that accident always happen to others. That means even if I do wrong, I will not meet an accident. I will not commit an accident. Other people may meet an accident, but even repeating the same mistakes by what others have done, I will not meet with an accident. A very simple example, you talk on mobile while driving your car or your motorcycle. We know, we have seen that many accident happens because somebody is talking on mobile and he is distracted and his attention is not on the road. But still you do that because you believe that accidents always happen to others. Sometimes we are afraid that if we show a lot of safety concerns, then people may laugh at you, they may insult you, that you are a coward, you don't have guts. Now sometimes if you are working day in and day out on certain job, because of the routine, we don't even notice the risk. Secondly, sometimes you adopt I know everything attitude, the ego, that I am working here, I am doing this job since last 25, 30 years, 40 years. So far so good, no accident has taken place, I am safe. So what is going to happen in the future, even if I keep on doing the same mistakes? So you don't listen to others, you don't listen to the instructions, the warnings. Then there are pressures to meet production and quality goals. You have certain production targets and you have to fulfill those targets within the time limit, a particular time frame. And so you just forget about the safety rules, the procedures, you bypass everything and just be after the production targets. So these are all obstacles and mental blocks. So you don't look at safety at all. So there is no question of identification, assessment, and so on. So these are the obstacles and mental blocks in hazard identification, risk management. Now we will look into method of hazard identification. It's a very long process and I request the listeners to go through this slide very minutely and listen to me attentively. Hazard identification is an ongoing pre-operation and periodic process. What is the meaning of ongoing? That whenever you are moving around, you must have that faculty to identify the hazards which are around you. And it may be the case that today your machine is okay, your the electrical panel is okay, but you don't know that tomorrow there may be something wrong with the machine, there may be something wrong with the panel. So you just can't keep quiet that, okay, I have seen it yesterday, so there won't be any problem. So it is an ongoing process. There is no stoppage. Pre-operation means whenever you start some work, you have come in the shift, now you are going to start your machine, then it is your duty to see whether there are no hazards and your guards are properly maintained, all the safety devices are at their place, all the safety devices are functioning properly. So pre-operation. And you can do it periodically also by taking the site safety tours or the inspection tours. Now for these site safety tours and inspection tours, you have to create hazard identification teams, maybe department wise or section wise, depending upon the size of the organization, size of the department. If the department is big, there are various sections, you can create a team section wise. If the department is small, you can create a single team of the department. Essentially have a team leader. The team member should have thorough knowledge of the processes, machines and materials. They should be properly trained, they must know through their experience, they must have knowledge about the process going on, the methods, how to work on the machine, what are the materials and what are the hazardous materials and so on. You can include the production engineers, maintenance personnel, then essentially health and safety professionals, the departmental supervisors, the HODs, managers, they can be a part of the team. Now importantly, every inspection must examine who, what, where, when and how. The meaning is, if the accident happens, who will be affected? A single person or many person? Who will be affected? What will be the extent of the consequence? Means if the hazard is realized, if the accident happens, what is the consequence? What is the extent of consequence? That means a person will be have minor injury, or there will be a major injury, or there will be a fire, there will be an explosion. So what is the consequence? Where it will happen? What is the spot that there is a chance of accident, there is a likelihood of accident? When it will happen? Because sometimes it is the case that the hazard you have identified, it is not going to realize immediately, but after say some time, say after 4 days, after a week, after 15 days. So you have to very much keep in mind that within that 8 days you have to rectify. And how it will realize? How that hazard will be realized? In what way? Means there will be bursting of the vessel, there will be explosion, or there will be fire. What is the manifestation of the realization of the hazard? That you have to look into. Now you have to create a suitable format to report the hazards. So when you are moving around, you must have that format with you, and you keep on writing in that format whatever you have observed, what are the hazards you have observed, and various other things which you may incorporate in the format. And if you make a format, use it invariably. Don't that this time you use the format and next time you don't use the format. So use it invariably. Now if need be, create a checklist for each areas. It means you list what things are to be checked. So whenever you go around, you keep on ticking that yes, you have checked this, you have checked this, like that. So it will be a help. You will not miss anything. But the other problem is that if you just go by the list, if you confine yourself to the checklist, then possibly you may miss some typical things which have developed, but it is not in your checklist. Then you must have the diagram, if possible, of that area, so you know where the air conditioned ducts are, where the exhausts are, where the installation of the electrification are. So if you have that diagram of that area, the map of that area, it is well and good. Now while doing the hazard identification, firstly use your sensory organs. But apart from that, have different types of instruments with you to check the levels of hazards on the spot. So if you think that the noise level is more, immediately you can check with the help of the noise meter. If you think that the temperature is very high, you can check it with the thermometer. If the vibration is high, you can check it with the vibrometer. So have maximum possible equipments and devices with you. Essentially, wear requisite PPE while doing the survey. Don't move around without PPE. Whatever the mandatory PPE is there in the section, you must wear it. Now have a periodic tour of the department section, maybe every 7 days, 15 days, depending on the level of hazards in your section. Note down the hazards, unsafe conditions, unsafe acts observed. pay particular attention to atoms most likely to develop unsafe conditions. So there may be certain things that you feel that now the thing is okay, but after some days some unsafe conditions will be developed, or it will impact on workers' health. It may be because of the physical or mental stress, it may be because of the wear and tear of the machine, it may be because of the impact caused by your being banged by something. There is excessive vibration, excessive heat, there is a likelihood of corrosion. Because of that heat, there are chemical fumes coming out. So maybe the corrosion is happening because of the chemical coming out. There are certain chemical reactions being taking place which are not desirable, or there is misuse of something. So there are many things to be observed. Sometimes you can have different teams and staggered tools alternatively. So you have 2 or 3 teams. One time one team will go, second time other team will go. Or you can have different teams. That means one team will check machines, one team will check the electrical installation, one team will check the ventilation and AC or the exhaust and so on. One team may check the fire safety. Now what you have to check? It's a very long list. It is an unending list. You have to check environmental elements, that means your surrounding, the heat, the air, the noise, these are all environmental elements. You have to check the equipments which you are using, whether they are proper or not, calibrated or not. You have to check the tools, whether the tools are appropriate, adequate, they are in good shape, condition. You have to look into the machines, whether the machines are working properly, all the safety devices are existing, machine is working smoothly, all the guards are at its place. You have to check the process, if the chemical processes are there, you have to check all the parameters of the process. You have to check the chemical inventory, if there is a storage of chemical inventory, whether it is proper, there is proper storage in the tanks, there is a proper bunding. If the hazardous materials are there, then you have to look into that these hazardous materials are stored properly. If the requisite PPE is available, whether the people are wearing the mandatory or requisite PPE, what are the material handling facility, whether those material handling facilities like cranes or the forklifts, they are working properly. If you are doing the material handling with hands manually, then whether the procedure followed for the manual handling is proper. You have to look into the first aid kits, whether adequate number of first aid kits are kept or not. Very importantly, whether all the material which is required to be stored in the first aid kits, whether it is there or not, or some items are missing. You have to look into the walkways, whether they are clear. You have to look into the gangways, whether there is no storage of unwanted material in the gangways which will create the obstructions. You have to check the exit doors, they are not blocked. You have to look into the storage facilities, whether the storage facilities are proper and everything is kept properly. All the fire facilities are there, they are working properly. Then you have to check the safety devices and controls which are placed. Then you have to check common facilities like air conditioning, air ducts, etc., etc. So just try to understand, it is not a very easy thing. You have to be very meticulous. You just can't have the paper in your hand and just have a round of the department. You have to be very patient and you have to observe everything very meticulously and minutely. So inspect entire workplace area each time. Do not leave some area unchecked. Include even areas where work is not regularly carried out. Maybe parking lots, office storage, locker rooms, a place above your mezzanine. Inspect electrical installation, fire safety installation. So the list is unending. You have to be very meticulous and check each and everything, whether there is certain hazard, if certain hazard is developed, if the things are working properly and safely. Now, while doing the survey, you have to talk and consult with the people on the spot to gather information. So, you are not dumb. When you are moving around, you have to, have the interaction with the people, because they will tell you a lot of information. They may give you certain information about certain hazard which you have not located or you have not found out. So do not operate or stop machines and equipment yourself. If you want to observe something in the machine, you yourself stop the machine. No, you are not authorized to do that. So you have to ask the appropriate person to do the same. So ask him to do that. Then before you open the machine guards for inspection, see invariably that the energy is brought to zero. That means electricity is isolated. If there are certain pneumatics or hydraulics, they are isolated, or even the batteries are there, the batteries are isolated. So bring the energy to the zero level. Do hazard identification when then there is a change in the process. It is very important. If there is a change in process, methods, materials, if there is certain modifications to the machine or the equipment, if you bring a new machine or equipment, then hazard identification is a must, because the new process, the new machine, the new equipment, the new material may create certain new hazards. And so you are supposed to identify whether new hazards have been cropped up. If not, it is okay, but if some new hazard is identified, then you are supposed to either eliminate it or minimize it. So it is very, very important that when there is a change in process, method, material, if there is a modification of the machine or the equipment, if you are introducing a new machine, the hazard identification is a must. Then observe people, how people are working, what is their attitude. Find out whether they are suitable for the job, because every person has to be mentally suited. His attitude must suit to the job. His training must suit to the job. See that they are not committing any unsafe acts. Now report your hazards, what you have identified, to your line managers, your departmental heads, and the safety department or EHS department. Is invariably create another format or a suitable format, a short format, to report unusual incidences or the near misses, like there is a sparking or there is a spill, something like that. Now, very importantly, anyone who observes, he should fill up the format immediately and report it to line manager and EHS department. Just don't wait that somebody else will do that, because it may be the case that others have not seen it, identified it. You are the only person who have seen it and identified it. So it is your duty to fill up the near miss format or unusual incidents format immediately and submit it to the authorities. Now, after collecting all this information about the identified hazards, you have to enter all hazards identified in a risk register and create a CAPA register, that is creative action and preventive action register. So only identifying is not enough. You have to take action on that. You have to decide who will do it, in what time he will do it, who will supervise that whether the thing is done or corrected or not. So CAPA register is very, very important. We will look into risk register and CAPA register when we will talk about the risk management. Now this is a guideline. We have seen in the last 2-3 slides that what things are to be looked into. So it is just a guideline or the repetition again that where you are supposed to look into. This table is very, very helpful to a practicing safety manager or a safety officer. In the first column there is collective protection or personal protective equipment. So look into the collective protection like ventilation, air conditioning, exhaust ducts, exhaust fans, the containments around the big vessels or the big tanks, the enclosures around the machines. You look into the PPE, whether the eye protection is required or the ear protection is required, head protection is required, hand and arm protection is required, feet and leg protection is required, and so on. So you have to observe, you have to see whether the proper PPE is provided to the workers or not. If there is something lacking, you can suggest that this additional PPE is also required in this department. So observation of PPE is very important. Now you have to look into the position of the people. This column we will look into the next slide, that will be with the help of the figures or diagrams, so you will be able to understand it properly. So striking again, struck by, hit by falling object, so on and so forth. We will look into the next slide. Now you have to look into the ergonomics of the workstation or the process or the work you perform. So how is the position of the person related to his workstation? Whether his position is okay or as per the ergonomic norms. What are the types of the movements that particular person is doing, and what is the number of times that particular movement is done. So whether that movements are smooth or according to the ergonometry, or whether there are very repeated movements, awkward movements. What is the level of the load handle, what number of times the load is handled, how is the design of the work environment, how is the design of the workstation, what are the different tools which are used, whether the tools are positioned properly, whether there is a vibration, whether there is excessive temperature or very low temperature, how is the lighting adequate or insufficient, what is the level of the noise. So we are again sort of looking into the summary what is to be seen. You have to look into the equipment and tools and material, whether that material, tool or equipment is appropriate, whether that is well designed, whether it is being used correctly, because using of the tools has to be in a very particular or disciplined manner. You just can't use the tools or the equipment as you like. So whether the tools and the equipments are being used correctly, whether they are in a good state and proper condition. Then you have to check into the administrative procedures, whether the people are informed, whether they are trained. So if people are informed and they are trained, so they will be suitable for the job. So if they are not suitable for the job, you have to train them, inform them. You have to create certain procedures, SOPs. You have to make the people understand. You have to see whether they have understood or not. You have to keep on updating the procedures, the training and information, and you have to see whether the training is available and it's a continuous process and people are updated in time. You have to see there is orderliness and cleanliness. You have to use 5S to keep your workplace in a very orderly manner. You have to see whether there is a cleanliness and the storage is proper as per the norms of the storage and as per the methodology laid down for the storage of different materials. So these are the positions or exposure that struck by or striking at or striking against, hit by a falling object, caught in or in between, in contact with. So there is a burn, heat or cold, or there may be a contact with the electricity, overexertion or strain, slip, trip and fall, exposure to the different gases, fumes which may be obnoxious, hazardous, and falling from the height. If you are working at the height and not taking the proper precaution, there is a chance of a fall. So these are the hazard in relation with the position of a particular person. If a person is coming in the way of a crane, he may be hit by. If he is moving and there is a pipe at the head level, he may be struck at the pipe. So from these figures you can very well understand what is the meaning of exposure of the people to the positions they have. Now hazard identification is a teamwork, very essentially. Now any system or any chain is as good as the weakest link. If the chain is there, if all other links are strong but one link is weak, so what will be the strength of that chain? That will be the strength of that weakest link, because it will break there. So don't be a weakest link yourself. So be careful, learn about safety, be proactive, be enthusiastic about identifying the hazard or creating the corrective action, taking the corrective action. So don't be a weakest link yourself. So always be proactive to identify and report hazards. So by that you help to prevent an injury to yourself as well as to your co-workers. Very importantly, don't think why should I? That why I am supposed to report? Why should I report? Others may report. It's not only my responsibility. So it is very bad, because sometimes it may happen that you are the only person that have spotted the hazards. Others might have missed it. So if you report, immediately action will be taken. If you don't report, then probably the accident will take place. So don't think that way, that why should I report? Now it is not a blame game. You are not supposed to, in safety, you are not supposed to blame a person. You can blame a system, but you cannot blame a person. So it is not about the blame. Our ultimate goal is preventing accidents and injuries. So better good than lucky. So don't consider that luck is the factor, because of the ill luck accident takes place, or because you have a good luck you don't come across an accident. So try to be good. Try to be, develop the expertise in safety. So better be good, knowledge wise, action wise. So if you see some hazard and if you recognize the danger, firstly you think yourself that how that hazard can be eliminated. What can be the corrective action? If not eliminated, how by certain action, certain corrective action, it can be minimized and brought under the level within the limits. Now, not only look for yourself, but you look for your co-workers, the others which people are around. Collectively, individually and collectively own the responsibility of that particular hazards, so that you can take the corrective action and eliminate the risk or minimize the risk. Now, if you have done something to eliminate the hazard or minimize the hazard, whatever you have done, share that with others, so others can learn and they can avoid the same mistake. This is a real process of preventing the accidents and creating a safe environment. Now, what is expected from you? So, there are certain expectations that how you behave. So, always watch, wait, think and then act. Do not take shortcuts. Do not do the thing in haste. Don't be impatient. Be cool. Watch, wait, think and then act. Always share your experience with others. Don't keep it with yourself. Distribute your knowledge, information. Essentially, speak out when you see some danger, unsafe act, unsafe condition, a near miss. Don't keep it with you. Immediately write down the report, fill up the report, submit it, talk to your higher authorities, your supervisor, your HOD. So speak out. Always listen to the instruction given by the superiors, experienced people, expert people. Listen to them, obey them, follow them and cooperate with them. Now, you have to fill up the near miss report or unusual incidents report. Now, you know that the near misses can ultimately culminate into accident. So, establish the link between the UIR and the accident. That if this near miss or the UIR is not taken care of, how it may be converted into accident. This UIR could remove one domino in accident chain. So, there is a domino theory of the accidents. We will look into that domino theory at the appropriate time. But there is a certain chain of events. When I say domino, there are certain number of dominoes, and if one falls, the other fall. So, if the domino is removed, the other dominoes don't fall. So, UIR could remove one domino in an accident chain, so accident can be prevented. So, always complete UIRs to identify hazards so action can be taken. Whenever you find some unsafe act or hazard, whenever you intervene or tell somebody about it, tell it in a positive manner. Don't take it panically or don't tell it negatively that can't you see this, can't you understand this, like that. Don't ask the offending questions. Whatever you want to tell it in a positive manner, not at all in a negative manner. And very essentially, don't act like three monkeys of Mahatma Gandhi. So you know that मैं देखता नहीं, मैं सुनता नहीं, मैं बोलता नहीं. So see, listen, speak. This is very important for safety. So this is all expected from you. So friends, in this particular discourse, we looked into why there is a need of hazard identification, what are the different ways and means of doing the hazard identification, what you are supposed to do after identifying the hazards or identifying the unusual incidences or the near misses, how you can create the risk register and CAPA register and so on. So resume for further viewing. You can switch on to discourse 6, which is part 2 of the hazard identification, risk assessment and the risk management topic. So in this discourse number 6, we will discuss about risk assessment, its meaning and steps. Dear friends, do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Once again, thank you very much.